Hello and welcome back. My name is Jack B. And as always, thank you for viewing my video. I was watching the news coverage about the 8 or 10 drug boats Trump has blown up off the coast of Venezuela. I started wondering what the true reasons were. We have several naval ships, submarines, surveillance aircraft, and attack jets in the Caribbean. It seems we've allocated billions of dollars of Defense Department equipment, vessels, and manpower to the region. My first thought was that we were wasting a lot of taxpayer dollars on the big, beautiful adventure. The talking point presented by Trump is that we are doing this to make America safer. So I thought maybe I just didn't get the bigger picture. Therefore, I started to research and gather data about the bigger picture of drugs in America, such as what drugs are being used, where they are manufactured, how they got there, and which ones are the deadliest. I have more questions, but I wanted to start with just these aforementioned ones. The sources I used for my research into illegal drugs, their origin and abuse were: first, the U.S. federal agencies. Number one, the National Institute on Drug Abuse. Number two, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Number three, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And number four, the Drug Enforcement Administration. I also looked at nonprofit and international sources. Number one, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. And number two, the National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics. The first part of my research was to understand what drugs are used in America and whether they are homegrown or imported. While there may be derivative drugs on the black market, there are 8 primary problem categories with 17 specific drugs abused in the U.S. today. Number one are the synthetic opioids such as fentanyl. They are the most fatal and problematic. Fentanyl is manufactured internationally. Number two, the next category is stimulants, such as meth, which is manufactured in America, and cocaine, which has an international source. Number three are mixed drugs. These are drugs that are mixing stimulants with opioids, and that's made in America. Number four, marijuana, cannabis, is mostly grown in America. Number five are prescription drugs made in America. They are opioid painkillers, oxycodone, oxycontin, hydrocodone, Vicodin, and morphine. Then you have the benzodiazepines, Xanax, Valium, and clozapine are used to treat anxiety and sleep disorders. Then you have stimulants such as Adderall and Ritalin. They are misused primarily by young adults. All of these are homegrown. Number six, alcohol has both domestic and international sources. Number seven, heroin. The use of heroin is declining due to synthetic opioids. Its use was reported at 2.7% of the usage in 2024. Heroin is made in America. Number eight, hallucinogens as LSD and psilocybin, magic mushrooms, have numerous domestic sources. To summarize, the drug types and origins of the 17 individual drugs causing problems in America today, there are only 2 drugs that are manufactured outside the country and illegally brought in. Those 2 drugs are fentanyl and cocaine. The 15 remaining drugs are made in America. I will focus on the drugs manufactured internationally first. Fentanyl is responsible for over 70% of all drug deaths in the U.S. It is primarily manufactured in Mexico. It is extremely potent and is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. A small amount can be lethal. It is often mixed with other drugs unbeknownst to the users, which increases the likelihood of overdose. China is the primary origin of fentanyl, precursor chemicals, equipment, and related substances. Mexico manufactures fentanyl and is the transit hub to move it across the border to the U.S. China and Mexico also send illegal material into the U.S. through international mail and express consignment operations. Seizures from these sources are typically smaller, averaging less than 1 kilogram. China is the main source of the precursor chemicals and pill presses used by Mexican cartels to manufacture illicit fentanyl. The Chinese government has provided tax rebates that subsidize the manufacturing and export of these materials. In addition, some chemical companies not only sell these materials to Mexican cartels through online marketplaces and encrypted communications, and providing instructions to how to process them into fentanyl. As a side note here, historically, one aspect used by enemies of a country to cause that country to collapse is to make every effort possible to get the population addicted to drugs. This is what the Japanese tried to do to China in the 1930s. They provided extreme amounts of opium in dens to the population. Japan purchased the opium from Britain. And I also suspect we see the CCP at work using fentanyl as an element against the U.S. It appears to be part of their hybrid program. The drug cartels in Mexico manufacture the fentanyl from the chemicals acquired from the CCP. The finished fentanyl product is then smuggled across the U.S.-Mexican land border, hidden in passenger vehicles or carried by smugglers and U.S. citizens. Most fentanyl is trafficked through official ports of entry where large volumes of legitimate trade and travel can obscure illicit cargo. Most seizures occur at official crossings along the U.S.-Mexican border, with a high concentration of some crossings in Texas. U.S. citizens are used as mules because they can usually travel back and forth unhindered. The fentanyl seizures at ports of entry usually involve U.S. citizens who can legally enter the country, allowing them to evade suspicion. Other less common cross-border methods that are still being used include cross-border tunnels, drones, and carrying the drugs on foot. Equipment and precursors for the fentanyl are more likely to be shipped via commercial transport. U.S.-based affiliates of the Mexican cartels distribute the illicit fentanyl across the country. Fentanyl can be sold in powder form, pressed into counterfeit pills that mimic legitimate prescription drugs, or mixed with other illicit substances like heroin, cocaine, and meth. The extreme potency and low cost of fentanyl make it a lucrative product for the drug cartels. Cocaine is the other drug smuggled into the U.S. Cocaine is primarily manufactured in Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia. These countries use major transit hubs for sending the drugs to North America and Europe via waterways so as not to cause undue attention to their country and to make use of the people on the coasts of these transit countries as transporters. The Pacific hub is Ecuador, and the Atlantic Caribbean hub is Venezuela. There are multiple routes to get cocaine into North America. Number one is the Pacific route. This is the primary water route, and Ecuador is the primary transit hub. Cocaine is moved from Colombia and Peru to Ecuador and trafficked northward through the Pacific corridor. This route uses go-fast boats, commercial cargo vessels, and even semi-submersibles, narco subs, to reach the points north. The second route is the U.S.-Mexican border. Mexico is also a primary transit country for cocaine entering the U.S. overland. Once the drug reaches Mexican ports, it's moved overland, often hidden in commercial trucks and private vehicles with concealed compartments towards the U.S. border. Number three, to avoid increased law enforcement efforts in the Caribbean, cartels have shifted westward, increasingly using the vastness of the Pacific to evade detection. The Caribbean Atlantic route is a major channel for cocaine going to Europe. Vessels leave from South American countries such as Venezuela, which is a minor transit hub, Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay, and sail across the Atlantic to West and Central Africa. These African nations also act as transit points. The cocaine is moved into Italy and other parts of Europe from West Africa. Deaths from drugs continues in the U.S. In the 12-month period ending March 31st, 2025, there were over 77,000 drug deaths in the U.S. That's an average of approximately 213 deaths per day. The most recent full-year data is from 2023 at 108,000 deaths. In 2022, there were over 110,000 deaths. And in 2021, there were over 109,000 deaths. To summarize, it appears as though we're wasting a lot of effort and taxpayer money in the Caribbean, although we are putting on a hell of a show. The majority of the number one drug that is killing Americans, fentanyl, is coming across the U.S.-Mexican border. Most drugs are entering the U.S. are coming from the Pacific, the Mexican border, and even regular ports of entry. It is also clear that if cocaine were in the fast-go boats that were blown up coming to the U.S., which is just a maybe, it really doesn't matter because the amount is so small. I suggest more needs to be done at the borders and legal points of entry. It is a fact that Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. They have large amounts of rare earth materials and natural resources. Therefore, I offer the suggestion that the reason for our activity off the coast of Venezuela is not for the drugs. Trump's transaction here is to get the natural resources, rare earth minerals, and oil reserves to make a lot of money for some people. Using taxpayer money for this with no return to the U.S. Treasury is wrong. Also, there ought to be an integrated plan for strategy tactics, and logistics to first contain the drug problem, then to eliminate the drug problem, and finally to provide sustainability of a drug-free America. Well, these are my thoughts for today. And again, whether you agree or not, please confirm the information presented. Thank you, and until next time, take care. Bye.